Don't tell your wife. Don't tell your children. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell your friends. Don't mention it to anyone. Even though the world is filled with people, loneliness is rampant. It's everywhere. So many people who are struggling in their life have literally no one to talk to. You know, I always wondered, from where does a person get the power to continue to chase their dreams when they have so much hardship and misery in their life? And when our heart is filled with pain and sorrow, how do we empty it so we can move on? I come from a culture that has an unspoken code of personal responsibility. It says, if you're hurting, don't tell your wife. Don't tell your children. Don't tell your parents. Don't tell your friends. Don't mention it to anyone. Be a man. Handle it yourself. When I was in my 30s, it seemed like everything was going wrong in my life. My whole world was crumbling around me. I felt powerless, as though I was drifting amidst waves of endless years of disappointment and failure. Every day felt like an emotional roller coaster that I couldn't get off. I was looking for someone or something that could change the direction of my life, but I had no idea what that would be. I used to hear late at night, religious ministers on TV say, if you're feeling down, you need to pray. I tried that before many times. It didn't work for me. When I prayed, it was like talking to a brick wall. I never got any answers. So I knew conventional prayer was not the solution for me. But strangely, on this one night, I remembered a movie that I saw when I was a little child. This movie was about a little girl. She was probably 6 years old, who lived with her parents. And on this one day, as the girl's parents were sitting in the living room downstairs, they heard their daughter upstairs talking to somebody in her bedroom. She was an only child. There was nobody else. And the parents whispered to each other like, who's she talking to? There was no one else in the house. So the girl's father quietly crept up the stairs and he peeked into her room. And he saw his daughter, beautifully dressed, sitting on a chair at a table, laid out with 2 plates, 2 cups, and a teapot. And she was sitting across from an empty chair. And all of a sudden, she started talking to her invisible friend, sitting on the other side. And she said, isn't it a beautiful day? Would you like some tea? Do you like my dress? I love my dress. This is such a wonderful day. The one thing that stood out the most that I will never forget was the look on this girl's face as she was talking to her invisible friend. She was so happy. I don't know what made me think of this movie, but on that day I decided that I was going to do the exact same thing as this little girl. I was going to get myself an invisible friend that I could talk to. My invisible friend, though, was going to be the greatest friend anyone could possibly ask for. My invisible friend was gonna love me so much, would always be willing to listen to me anytime I needed to talk, to support me, to always be there, to never judge me, to always forgive me, and to always be there for me whenever I needed something. I'm gonna be able to tell my invisible friend anything and everything on my mind and in my heart. And since I have the greatest friend that anyone could ask for, my friend needs to have the greatest name. And I thought, what name should I give him? I know, there's no greater name than this. I'm gonna call my invisible friend God. And then I got myself a journal to write in, and just like a movie script, I decided to record my conversation with my invisible friend. I wrote my name at the top left-hand side of the first page, and next to it, I began to write my conversation. So I wrote, Terry dash, hello God, how are you today? And then as quickly as I could, I wrote a reply from my invisible friend. So I wrote, God dash, hello Terry, I'm doing good, how are you? And then I stopped and whispered to myself, this is crazy. What am I doing? If someone saw me doing this, they'd think I was nuts. But I kept picturing how happy that little girl was as she talked to her invisible friend. So I closed the door and continued writing. Hello God, are you really there? Of course, I'm always here for you. And then again, I stopped writing. This time I slammed the pen on the table and I shouted to myself, "What am I doing? This is not God. This is me with a pen." I was in a battle with my own thoughts and I thought, "Are you nuts? Why are you doing this?" And I said to myself, "I want to do this because I want to believe. I want to believe He's here. I want to believe He can hear me. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't even care what I think because I don't have anyone I can talk to." So I picked up the pen again and I continued writing. And I wrote, "God, I'm feeling so down. My businesses have collapsed. I've lost all my money. I feel so embarrassed and ashamed. I have nothing left. My marriage is in a mess. I don't know what to do. I have no one to talk to. Can you help me?" "Terry, it's okay. I'm here. Everything's gonna be all right." I continued to write everything that was on my mind, every concern, every worry that I had in my heart. I told my invisible friend everything. I kept writing and writing for hours and hours, for days and weeks. I kept writing everything that I had inside of me. I desperately wanted to empty my heart of all the pain. As my relationship progressed, I began to ask my invisible friend questions. So I'd write, "God, how should I treat my wife?" And then I would write as quickly as I could what I thought his answer would be. Surprisingly, the answer was another question. "Terry, how do you think you should treat your wife?" "Well, I think I should treat her like this, and this, and this. Is this right?" "Well, do you think it's right?" I couldn't believe his answers. It seemed like my invisible friend was a master at sales. He would always answer my question with another question. But I continued to write. After a few months, something unbelievable happened. My heart was completely empty of all the pain. I felt so light. I couldn't think of another thing that would worried or concerned me. The sadness had completely gone. I felt like I had the greatest secret in the world. My invisible friend was with me everywhere I went. Now, a few months later, I didn't even need my journal. As I walked, I would talk to my invisible friend. "God, are you there?" And I'd hear the reply in my head, "Yep, I'm right behind you." I couldn't believe it. My relationship with my invisible friend was the greatest discovery of my life. Now, if you're currently feeling the same way I did, I would encourage you to get a journal and start writing to your invisible friend. Get everything out. You've got nothing to lose. What if it works? It's worth a try.